All right, welcome. This is the start of a new series, A Wing and a Prayer, Bombing the Reich. Obviously, a B-17 solo game. There's a number of them out there. I've looked at the single bomber B-17, target for tonight B-17, all the way up to the full strategic air war DVGs, Flying Fortress Leader. And I decided to pick something in the middle here, a wing and a prayer. This is basically where you follow a squadron through the campaign. Could be short, but starting potentially in 42, going all the way to the end. Now, this game actually originally came out as a B-17 Bomber Solitaire game. Yeah, I think it was print and play. I'm not sure. Um, 2014. Yep, there's a designer here. Berserker Games, and it was picked up by Lock and Load. And you see that re-implemented by A Wing and a Prayer. So there's the BGG site for A Wing and a Prayer. It came out in 2016. It went through some iterations. There was kind of frustration at the beginning, but I think ultimately I've got the latest version now, 2.4. I think that came out a few years later. Um, and that's what I'm using here, all the latest stuff from the Lock and Load website. And again, this is mainly a narrative. We're going to see as we go through it, not too many decisions, but if I'm at the squadron level, squadron commander does kind of make sense. I'm not picking my targets, and basically I can pick my route and other things, but beyond that, the game kind of drives it beyond that, and that's the narrative aspect to it. Um, so, and again, and the other reason I'm going with B-17 is considering the date. We're in almost the end of January. And of course, last Friday, the first two episodes of Masters of the Air came out. So I definitely did want to do something B-17 level. And I think this feels closer. I mean, an individual B-17 is solid. I mean, a lot of people do that, and that's a good experience. And I've actually got 3 games for that. Target for today, and the original B-17 from Avalon Hill. And I even picked up another one on Wargame Vault, which I may look at later. But I kind of like the squadron level here, at least, while we're going through the Masters of the Air. Now, I may roll in a strategic level too, and it probably won't be Flying Fortress Leader. It'll be Fortress Games' new 8th Air Force. I know a number of people have done reviews on that. So you may see that in the next few weeks coming out also. I've spun up a homemade Vassal mod for that. But I'm going to start with a Wing and a Prayer from Lock and Load. And again, I'm using the latest version you can download from Lock and Load, or I think it's even on the BGG site. This is squadron level. So this first video, don't know. I'm going to kind of look at the rules, kind of look at the layout, and maybe even roll one mission before we're done here. And then hopefully from then on, I'm going to continue as Masters of the Air goes on. If I do the whole war, I'm probably going to do 3 to 4 missions a week to end at the same time. We'll see. So here I've got the rule set, and it is procedural. That's the word I want. We'll kind of run through it. I think I've worked through some of this here. And again, yeah, you're in charge of a squadron, potentially, and they've got scenarios where you could start late 42 when it first started. It was not a fun time for those squadrons, and it could be just 5 missions, only 1942, I think, or 25 missions, I guess, to the end. There's optional rules too, and if we scroll down here, yeah, we do see they've actually done 25 turns, and they've divided it up into years, and different things become available as you go through. Here's a map. I will admit one of the criticisms is they've got some spelling issues. Stuttgart. I don't, I don't know if they're going to come out with a new map, but and there's some other ones in here. I'd have to look, but this one's pretty obvious to me. I've actually been to Stuttgart. That's not how they spelled it, so should have caught those. But the rule set 2.4 is good. They've incorporated some other. Some people wrote, I forgot the guy's name, it's on the BGG side, but he wrote additional rules and then they incorporated it into 2.4. So I'm hoping this will be good set of rules. Let's see, and then they've got advanced rules. Don't have to memorize the rules because it's procedural. There's a whole bunch of tables, and again, I'd stress these are the 2.4 version tables, Rev 60. Here's a sequence of play for one player. Nice sequence of play there. And then they've got single player charts, 5 pages. There is a 2-player option too. I haven't looked at that, but they've got charts, sequence of play for that. So we'll be leveraging these as we go through it also. Um, mission map, that's what this is. And this is where you pick your route. And you can tell these squares identify, I believe, the target and whether there's flak. So this is like aircraft manufacturing we see for these. This is railway, transport, industry. Um, could be oil too, because that was a big target. I've actually been listening to Masters of the Air audiobook in preparation. So oil was a target too. So you got different types of targets. Is there flak present? You roll for the fighters. Oh, here's the sub pens right here. And I would imagine there's some way over here. Yeah, Laurent, Brest, Saint Nazaire, La Rochelle. A lot of sub pens there. And Wilhelmshaven sub pens. This was part of the early bombing campaign too. And then here it is, the big one way back here, Berlin. And of course, you got to fly through a lot to get there. And at least in the beginning, the P-38s and P-47s and even the Spitfires, which aren't necessarily included, but they didn't have the range. So that's why the early bombing campaign there, the losses were so much. Anyway, let's look at this. Here's your starting point, 8th Air Force. Green means that's safe. It's still over England. Blue means you're over water. Gray means there's kind of nothing there. This is fighter escort meetup here. And then these are actual hexes where events can happen, bad things, fighters show up, you may get flak attacks, etc. And then, of course, your bombing run. Blue boxes over water, white boxes with minimal air defense systems. Yeah, these what these are. Looks like light gray. Brown boxes are target locations defended by robust defense systems. Looks more red than brown. Well, that is brown. Yeah, that's brown. Green boxes with the 4 aircraft icon or escort rendezvous. That's what these are. So you could fly out with an escort, and then if you fly to one of these, you could rendezvous with a new escort if you want to. Maybe your initial escort was decimated, or they're out of range. It depends. Okay. Then we got a formation card. This is where we kind of hold. And again, I don't know if these are the 2.4. I think these are the same. Yeah, I've actually got this loaded up for my first mission here. To Cherbourg, and here's the escort. But when you're doing your attack, you kind of build up your elements here, depending on how many bombers you're sending, and then you assign crews to them. You can see them here also, green. At least we've got the lead bomber. I think that's elite, and then we've got crack crew here. So that's our card we use when we go to the target. There is the briefing card, and this is kind of like your base also. You start out, I think, with 12, and notice I left 3 behind, P-17Fs, I mean 6 behind based on my target. And here are the crews that didn't go. And then after you finish missions, bombers can get damaged, crews may not be ready. You put them here. And then you track your victory points here, mission VPs, and then the total campaign victory points. So got that also. And here's some pictures of them too. You've got mission cards. Yeah, here's a nice breakdown. So for the crew, when they're potentially firing at enemy fighters, this is a positive add-on. Performance is kind of defense, and then when they go for the bombing run, there's a number. And you do see the green crews don't stack up very well. And then veterans and crack, that's how they break it. And then on the aircraft, we do see the values here. In air combat, that's what they have. 4 is their bombing value. Add it together, roll, see how many hits. 2 is performance, and then 4 is structure when resisting attacks. Same kind of numbers on fighters, obviously not bombing, and they can be damaged, so you do see reduced effectiveness here. Okay. And then you randomly draw target cards. You don't pick your targets, and they are coded based on the year. This is a 1942 one, and when you come in, you see the flak value for the target, how difficult it is to bomb it, barring you also roll for cloud cover, how many hits you need to destroy it, and then victory points, either heavily damaged, which means you pretty much take it out, or light damage, you get some points. How many bombers are required for the mission, and how many escort fighters you are allowed to have also, which you randomly roll. I think in the beginning it's P-38s and 47s. Later in the war you can get 51s, P-51s. And so you randomly draw those. And you can see here, I've already drawn for my first mission. Got Cherbourg, and that's a nice, I wouldn't call it a milk run, but at least we're definitely in range of our escorts. And it looks like the Germans only have one shot over the target. So maybe that's a good first mission. Only need 6 bombers, get 6 fighters as support, and you do see that on the formation card. Here's the fighters down here, and the 6 bombers. They fill up here, here. This is the important bomber, lead bomber. They all key off this one for bombing. And then we'll see later we can roll for cloud cover, and I did. I think I got a light. Yeah, that's a counter. I rolled light cloud cover, which adds, kind of takes away from the bombing capability. So we're kind of already set up for our first trial mission here. Yeah, we went through all this. Kind of the air combat, ability to inflict damage on enemy aircraft, performance, overall speed and maneuverability, that affects combat, bombing, bomb load, and the structure, ability to withstand damage. Okay. Crew counters, they do add to this. They can add or subtract, actually, depending on their values. Like this one, +2, nice. +1, +2. This is a solid crew here. Great lead crew, and then I think I've got some crack ones here. +1. Zeros, green crew, -1, 0, -1. Okay. So that's all mapped out here. Victory point we've already talked about. They've actually got a 15th Air Force. I wonder if they will expand it, because that was the other half of the strategic bombing. They don't get as much press, but they were all first coming out of Libya, and then ultimately I think it's called Foggia in Italy. They built a big base down there, and that's where the Red Tails were assigned to the 15th Air Force too. And then we have a generic formation card. There's our formation counter, so when we do a mission, this is what we're moving and checking for events in each one. We check the range for our escorts as they move. So you do see, at least initially, range 5 for P-47s, so they're not going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not deep raids into Germany for sure. P-38s have a little bit more range, and then the P-51s, yeah, they were a game changer when they finally came. They can pretty much go all the way to Berlin, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, no problem, all the way to Berlin. And this capability, and then they made the fighters of listening to Masters of the Air once they let them loose also. Instead of just staying with the bombers at all times, when they were done, they could go and start strafing targets, doing fighter sweeps. They started decimating the Luftwaffe. Here's our cloud counter, and then there's a Lady Luck concept. That can be an event, we'll see, that you could use. And you do roll for fighter aces once you get an engagement. Like with my escorts, I roll. I didn't get any aces for this first one. You will see the table. It doesn't really happen a lot early, but the Germans can get aces too. Flak level counters, 2-player. I guess they can variably set that. Here's the setup. 1942 short campaign, 5 missions. I think that just takes you through 1942. Or you can just keep going, or you can start later. Box 11, that's towards the end of 43. And then there's a box 14, the big push before the invasion. 51s are there. Okay. That was, I don't know what they call it, big week, etc. But they were just going to town on France, bombing everything, rail yards, whole 9 yards, and kind of trying to get the Luftwaffe to come up and decimate their fighter forces so that when the invasion finally came in June 6th, well, You saw the movie, only 2 guys flew over it. No, hardly any Luftwaffe was there to try and prevent the invasion. And the full campaign goes all the way. Depending on how things go, I may just let this one roll all the way through. Okay. Build a mission deck. Right now, my mission cards, I only have 1942 in there, mission cards, which we could look at here. I guess I could draw specific here. You can see, this is randomized, so I don't know, but these are all cards marked 1942. And Cherbourg's not in there because that's the first one I drew, but this is 43 and 44. And and then as you move through 44 and get into 45, there's no more targets in France because the Allies have taken it. Draw your initial crews, which we did. I think we were allowed 1 crack and 2 elite, and then the rest green. Then here's kind of an overview of the sequence. Planning and intel, determine mission, draw a card, weather, assign bombers and crews, put in the escorts, then you execute it, and then debrief a mission. You just do that, I guess, 25 times for the full campaign. Mission deck check. As you get to certain turns, you change the mission deck. Like there aren't any 1945 mission cards on turn 22. Remove all targets that are not located in Germany or Holland because they've overrun here. And then drop the top one, and that's your mission. And I've dropped that right here. Okay. Target cover, straight roll. I think I got light clouds. You do have an option to say, well, heavy clouds, I don't want to go. You lose 4 mission victory points and maybe wait for better cloud cover. If you re-roll, you got to keep the second roll. It could get worse. Okay. Select your bombers. Right now I got B-17Fs. I think later I'll get the Gs with the chin turrets because the front was very vulnerable, at least initially, with that I think just a 30 cal for the bombardier. Lead bomber of the lead element is the formation lead bomber, so definitely pick the best crew for that. So, for example, I said 6 bombers for this. I could assign more bombers, but then I lose victory points, beyond what's required for the card. But can never be more than 12, and you do see that from the formation card. Yeah, there you go, 6, 6. 3, 3, yeah. So in Cherbourg's case, I'm going to go with just the 6. Go from there. And then escort, got to roll the type of escort, and that's and I did roll that. Just got to find these. Escort availability. Determine escort type. Roll 1d6, and well, you do see, and this is based on the turns here. Turns 1 to 6, you're stuck with P-38s. Starting on turn 7, you can get either P-47s or P-38s still. Then these turns, you get these 3, and then the 38s drop out for the last part of the war here. This is not for the initial one. The mission card says 6, that's what I get. That's where if you meet up during the return or somewhere, those hexes on the main map that allow you to, these. If on my bombers flying, they can swap out their escorts. You got to roll a number there. Here's the ace table. Number of fighters, 6, and then you roll to see how many aces you have. I don't think I rolled that well. I'll have to look at that again. Let's see. So if you have, I had 6 fighters. I think I rolled a 1 or 2 and got 0 aces. So that wasn't good. And then, like I said, I did get light cover, so all the tables are here too. So coming back to the manual, I did all that. Setting up for my first mission here. And then you move into the mission phase. And a formation, okay, as you're flying, if you lose bombers on your formation card, you may have to move stuff around to move it forward, tire element, and move up the next element, okay? There is a loose formation, tight formation. I mean, a loose, it could be loose or tight. Initially, you start tight. You have those boxes, the 50 cals covering all of the areas. If for whatever reason an event occurs or you get disrupted, you go to a loose formation, reduces your bombers fire effectiveness, and you can do a check to try and get back. Then we got damaged aircraft. What happens to them? Escort range check. And if you're at a rendezvous site, you can get new aces. New escorts if you want. Swap them out here. And they give a nice example. And then flak side attack. As you go through flak side attack table, roll 2d6. Let's see if we can find that. Flat side attack table. And you roll the dice. And that's not on the target. On the target, you actually undergo attack, and they call it ingress and egress. But if, and in our case, that's all we're going to do. But if on your way you fly over flak sites, kind of randomly determines what's their combat factor here with this die roll here. Okay, that's kind of variable there. And then we have event checks. Pretty much in each one you go into as you move. Let's see if we can find that. Well, there's a war progress. That's nice. 262's early, V2's attack. Formation event table. There it is. This is the event check. So, distance you've traveled, 0 to 1. You roll 2d6, and on a 2, 3, 4, or 5, an event occurs. Anything else, it doesn't. And then you re-roll for what happened. And you do see if I'm 0 to 1, I'm still kind of over England. So you're not going to see enemy fighters. But again, now once we're 2 to 3, 1, 2, 3 here. Looks like you could potentially get enemy fighters over the channel. That's a possibility. Not here per se, but here. Event occurs 2 to 6, 2 to 6, and then 2 to 7. Okay. And then the different kinds of events. System trouble, one of your bombers drops out. Oops. Weather change, not good. Lady Luck, draw a random Lady Luck, and that you can use later to help you out. I think I've got the Lady Lucks loaded up. So for example, I could get add +2 hits to any bombing result. Nice. Ignore any damage. Okay. Ignore any hard or crash landing results. And you kind of keep this and play it where it makes sense. Crew reduction, etc. Let's see if I can get them all back in. There we go. So that's our random events here as we're traveling to the target. And then if you run into enemy fighters, you're going to resolve that combat. We'll see that later. Probably at this point, not in this video. I think, I'm at 22 minutes. And then you conduct your bombing run. And you've got to conduct flak ingress, flak egress. Ingress, then the bombing results, and then egress. Don't forget fighters over there. Could get pretty involved. And then you got to fly back. Rolling all the way for events. So just because you get there and bomb it doesn't mean you've made it. And then you got to even roll for landing. You got a landing table. And then potentially experience, green crew 5 or 6, the green crew is upgraded. Veteran crew on a 6, it goes to veteran crew is updated to crack. And that's as high as you can go. And then you go to the active mission deck into the mission, place the range tracking counters back. Yeah, this is kind of clean up here. Okay. And then they talk about at the end, when you've completed the required number of missions, campaign success table to determine your level of success. Okay, let's see. Mission victory, when the mission is complete, the mission VPs are translated into campaign VPs. So that's why we track it for the mission. And then there's a campaign progress table and success. Let's see if we can find those. Well, here's your loose formation. A lot of tables here. Campaign, okay. Campaign success tables, 5 missions, less than 2, defeat. 2 to 3, stalemate. Yeah, this is just the 1942. But if you play the whole campaign, well, you want to get at least a 12, 20, 24. And they do define. Germans have flipped the war. Oh, that's embarrassing. Well, that only happens if you do 25 missions and have less than 5, you flubbed it. 5 to 11, Germans get a second breath. Going to be a death job. Bronze star for a stalemate, and then you got victory, major, and spectacular, depending on how many victory points you get. We can look at some of these too. In 42, there's a point where we roll. He kind of simulates what's going on in the main battle. Allies advance, Axis advance. Drop tanks arrive in 43. Add 3 to the maximum safe range. That's nice. ME-262s arrive in 43. That's not nice. As you lose, you can roll for the type. You can also play this game as B-24s. So your squadron is usually going to be B-17s, and then you can come back and maybe do B-24s. Let's see, here's our landing table we talked about. Good landing, hard landing and a damage, 1 to 2 crash. Okay. Add the bomber's performance and its crew performance to the roll. So as long as it's not damaged, bomber performance is high, the crew is okay, you got good chance of landing successfully. Yeah, now we're back to the first table here. So let's see, come back to the rules here. Yeah, and there's try and repair your damage. 1 to 3 no effect, 4 to 6 repaired. They go to the ready section. So there's a 50-50 chance the damaged bomber is going to be ready for the next mission. And if yours has less than 12 bombers or less than 14 and 45, you can roll for 1d6 per lost bomber on the B-17 replacement table. And yeah, you don't mix and match. It's either B-17s or B-24s, or play one of each. And the war progress. If the mission counter is on a box with the war event icon, there it is, you will roll. And actually the new version came out with a separate turn track here. You saw I was referring to it on the map, but here's turn 6, you roll for it. Looks, turn 3 even. So we're starting here, but yeah, you roll for events, and depending on the year, potentially something can happen. War progress. And now they go into detail here, which at this point I'm going to save. Yeah, they go into Lady Luck counters, how they can do, fighter aces, random bomber selection, which we kind of did, what loose formations do. And here it is, all bombers in a loose formation receive a -2 air combat modifier when conducting their defensive fire. So that is a downside. Okay. And special rules on 1945. Then how to do a flak attack. And this is on the charts too. How much combat factor, if this is the approach or egress, the attack factor is not rolled. It is written on the mission counter, and I think 14. That's if that's your target. If this is the egress flak and you inflicted heavy hit, you could reduce it to 8. But if you didn't, you're going to get the full 14 on the way out. +2 if you're in 45. Egress, etc. And the clouds can affect it too. Okay, and determine number of hits. They give you good examples here, and then they give you a nice example here. Flying here to St. Omar. Formation is attacked. Flak strength is rolled. Moderate flak, and then 3 dice rolled against swamp fire. Roll 3d6 against each bomber in the formation, and 5 or 6 is a hit. 2 hits. Hits mean 2 dice are rolled for damage. Then you're on a damage table. And we do see structure, and the structure -4, it's a light hit. Roll 1d6 if it caused any damage, 4, it is damaged. Okay, so we'll work through this in more detail as I do the mission. And they have a nice example on dogfighting. And if you have many, you get wingmen and they add on. And then after that, and I think the attacker, let's see, determines, yeah, for the aggressive escorts table to determine how many escort fighters break off to meet the interceptors. Move at least that many escorts from the escort section to the interceptors. Escorts that did not break off must stay in the escort section and cannot join the dogfight. And then Let's see. And then you move into interceptors versus bomber air combat. We'll do that. Bomber's defensive fire, interceptor fire. And then they give a details here. And then the bombing run. So we got flak, we got dogfights, we've got the bombing run, number of systems here. And you're rolling for the number of hits, and the magic number is how many hits does that target take. And then they've got major targets that even have a separate damage card. Some do. Then they give a nice example here, dogfight example. Yep, good set of rules here. Nice example on how that flight plays out, which we'll do. Here's an interceptor versus bombers example. And then they show you that on the diagram here. And then they've got advanced rules. You can do B-24s. Optional starting crews. Use 3 veteran crews. Okay. Crew log. You do not roll for veterans to become cracks. That veteran crew become a crack automatically after they do 5 missions. Okay. So you could have a log sheet for that. As soon as a crew is reduced to veteran, note it, random. Okay. Oh, and you got crack crews being sent on leave after 5 missions. Return after 10. That's interesting. And then secondary targets. If there's heavy cloud over the target box, you can decide to do a secondary. Final cannot be changed. Select 2 different boxes with a target icon that are located 1 or 2 boxes from the main. Their mission card must be available. And roll for cloud cover. If both of them are heavy, ooh, the mission's aborted. Nice. Better, okay. So that's nice. Secondary. Crew's fate. Bomber drops out in the lost bomber fate table. You can see if, I guess, if they survived. And even if they escape using the Maquis, French, etc. You can have mixed escorts. You can see if the crew's experience gets upgraded right away. If they shoot something down. Each named crew will be tied with their bomber. If that bomber's not ready, the crew is grounded. Okay, that's interesting. Historically accurate escort units. Replace the standard. Anytime you need to determine the number of escorts that will protect you, refer to the availability table. Don't use the card. Anytime they're assembling, determine their current maximum safe range. Fighter escorts. So that's good. And then you got historical missions. You can decide to fly a historical mission instead of a random one. And here they do. Turn 1, the locomotive workshop in Rouen. You could pick that one. 12 bombers, 4 P-38s, clear weather. And turn 8, Focke-Wulf. Oh boy, come on, people. There's a C there. Focke-Wulf, whatever. In Bremen, Hamburg on turn 10, 43. These are historical raids. Yeah, and here's the big one. Schweinfurt, maybe Regensburg. Well, they don't list it, but I think that was combined. So on these turns, you could just choose to fly these missions. Here's Big Week before 1944, where they start clearing them. And Berlin, June of 21st. Dresden on the 22nd, on turn 22. It's interesting. You can incorporate those in. And then here's a 2-player game, which I'm not going to do. But they have a whole separate set of rules and charts, and then got some good designer notes here. So in the box 5. All right, so we do have errata. That's good. Yeah, Stuttgart is Stuttgart. Aberville is Abbeville. This is Emden. Yeah, Hanover has 2 N's. Mielt should be, a little umlaut there, or accent. Should be 9, not 19. Okay. Yeah, that's good to know these are there here. Formation card. Yellow, not red. There, comma, okay. I'll check these too. And then they give you an example crew log. I believe, or mission log. That's what this looks like. Nope, they've got also crew information here. Probably put this in an Excel spreadsheet. Oh, they've even got, yeah, specific crew named crews. So you can record everything. All right, cool. And that's an ad. So, like I said, I think I've done enough. This is what we're going to do. My next recording will be the first mission, and we'll play through the rules on flak attacks, fighter, combat, dogfights, attacking the bombers, and then actually the bombing run, etc. Instead of going through examples here, we'll just, as we play through this, we'll do it. And so the next video, my squadron, and I guess I need to pick a squadron number, probably something, well, one of the squadrons was there in 42. I have to look that up. But they're going to have their first mission here, and they're going to attempt to bomb the aircraft, apparently factories, in Cherbourg, where potentially they will undergo a flak attack. And we'll see in the mission events if any German fighters from the Luftwaffe decide to rise up and meet them too. So that will be our next recording, hopefully real soon here. Hopefully before the Friday in the next episode of Masters in the Air. Maybe I could squeeze out a few more. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you got this far, looking forward to this narrative driven. I've actually, we'll see later, I've played with some of the AI systems. I give them the criteria of what happened on the mission, and they actually write an interesting story. It's okay. You got to tweak it a little, but I may do that to generate the narrative for the raid, because the AI, I think I use Copilot for Microsoft. You can use Google Bard or you can use ChatGPT, but they've apparently been trained on that historical data, so they can be kind of realistic, interesting. So should show that in the next videos also. Anyway, that will draw this one to a close at a big 37 minutes. But looking forward to playing through this, and then maybe a little later in a few weeks, also bring in Fortress Games 8 Air Force. I definitely want to do Flying Fortress Leader at some point, but from what I understand, that's what I've seen. I've got it. I mean, it's more detailed, and I want to put my Vassal mod for Fortress Games 8th Air Force through the paces. And that'll set me up for 20th Air Force potentially in the future. One of my 10 games for the year 2024. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we will see you for the first mission over Cherbourg.